You're alive.
Da 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 da. Dream show with Isaac, the Wandering Grappler. Y'all like that? That was a cold open.
That was
Su-
good.
that was super cold, actually. Killing it at whatever the time of the day. 10:39. We said 10 something ish.
But
10:30 was the original plan,
but it's
and
9:39 my time, Steven.
it's early, so people file in, they get in where they fit in. I changed the spot of this microphone, and it's making me feel different. Can you flip where you're? I don't know how this is, but you're on the bottom. Can you flip yourself to the top for me, or would that be for? Yeah, because then I can look more at the camera
That way you get
instead.
the
Instead
I
of
get the
looking down at everybody every week. Um, what a while low. Uh oh, I better stop. Let me get big screen so I can't see the comment. All right, I love y'all
what
though.
up, Wallow?
We'll moderate y'all. Yeah, it's Wednesday, June the 18th. Do you know where your kids are?
No,
Yeah. Sorry. It'll be all right. You'll
that
find them.
was that was a good '80s reference. I've noticed how much that has now integrated into other parts of culture. That's funny that upbringing of now there's '80s kids that are kind of like going back and making some of those things the same way. That's Eddie's stuff makes me laugh about that with mastering the
Oh,
system,
yeah. He has some really
the
good ones.
opening and thing like that.
Yeah, he's got some really, really good ones like that.
A lot going on in the jiu-jitsu world, the fight world. There's
June.
I mean, we finally I was thinking about this as we were talking about this show is that we've finally gotten to the point as a community and a culture that we actually got what we wanted is there's jiu-jitsu almost every day.
Yeah. There's a lot. There's a lot of it every day. And so, like, I don't know. It's just, it's fun. But there's a lot, that goes into all of that too. Is that it's every day? Um, is that, similar to just too much sometimes to keep up with it all? I don't know. There's a lot that goes into like having that. It's so like sometimes you get what you ask for, and you may not always be like happy with what you wanted in some ways. And not that, it's good that everybody's got opportunities. It's good that there's plenty of work and all those kinds of things. That's the good sides of it for sure. The bad side is that it's definitely hard to follow everybody like it used to be. And but maybe that's kind of what makes it special to people who are getting into it, is finding people more and everything like that. Um, I don't
Yeah. No, and the people with it's hard to keep up with right now, I think, because one, it exploded. I mean, we went from nothing to couple years to every other month to like once a month to now every time you open Instagram, there's something new. There's always a
new
new
event.
event or something going on where there's capability for people to get reps at bigger shows, the opens becoming a thing. And I mean, look, you can throw the shade or the hate wherever you want, but IBJJF was doing opens back in the day, and like you were able to go get reps. There was a circuit, you know. There are critiques of how those systems worked, but the overall idea as things have grown has been like, man, wouldn't it be awesome if like every weekend I could go compete or every weekend I could switch on the TV and just watch jujitsu? Guess what, boys? It's here. And ladies and everyone and dogs and I mean, dude, the whole thing is
Everybody,
here.
it's
Everybody, like
coming.
the whole community came up all at the same time, and this is what people talk about that, and I know we've harped on this before in the show is that overnight success is, a decade of success.
Yeah, it's a 10-year in the making overnight success or whatever. And this again, it's awesome. It's awesome that there's what's up. Oh yeah, you let one in there. You snuck one in on you.
That's
Uh,
what I mean by joining the chat.
almost
Provide positive community support, and you get to
almost
join in the chat.
almost said his name? He almost got me. That was a good one. That's a good one.
That was a good one.
I almost said it.
It slipped right by me.
That's why I said he got you. He got you, Mister Mod. I was yeah, but yes, lots of great opportunities and lots of other things. In every avenue, right? There's lots of stuff for people like yourself who are doing production things, camera things, storytelling things. Uh, Journalism is becoming a big part of this now. We see like Alex Windling all over the place, reporting and doing things, and lots of other people are trying to jump in and fill that void. I think because there's not really ever been too much journalism. Like Egghead obviously writes tons of articles for the PGF stuff that have been way too good for the internet these days because nobody's got the bandwidth mentally. They don't
Well,
sit there and read all that long stuff, but it's actually really, like well thought out and set well because the dude's a good, writer and knows how to do like. So there's people that are doing all that stuff right now, and I just hope that it's being maybe appreciated, from people like that, the real journalism, people who are coming
yeah.
in trying to like give it some coverage and not being overlooked. Uh,
Well, and props where props are due. I mean, some of the OGs have been out there, like the grappling hour with
and Raph,
Raf. You know,
yeah, how
Raf.
yeah, Raph, my boy.
I tell people all the time that like he's one of the people that works with us, and we're like, hey, he actually does this,
Is
like
he a
in the real
journalist?
world. Well, okay, he's a
Like,
producer.
like he's a like I would. That's what I say is that he does news stuff,
I don't want to
but
misquote
I
who
don't
he's
know
worked
that.
for.
But I know he's done stuff.
I don't want to misquote who he's worked for, but I'm almost confident that he's worked for Conan and he's done that type stuff. I think these days he's like designing shows, I believe is what his actual job is. But like, and I don't know if I'm like putting him out there of like, oh no, don't tell people what
Hey,
I actually
so
do.
listen, the
But
one
he's
way
talented.
we'll just get my man on here. Can he wake up? He'll wake up at 7 or something, or before
Yeah,
7 ish. I
yeah.
bet.
He's
Yeah,
responsible.
we'll get him on here and find out these answers for you guys because we know y'all want those answers because we just brought up the question. So
There we go.
that's how you
Raf.
do TV right there. You beg the question and then you force an answer somewhere later that people want to see. Christos. See, that's a real one right there. Let a real one in. What's up, dude? Hope you're gearing up for the season, man. We're hyped up leading into the next installation of PGF draft coming up June 25th. Um,
Next week. A week from today.
that's crazy too. That's crazy. And for real money, you guys are they're being drafted for the actual pool is going to their game checks. There's going to be like a thing to where you get paid to play. Basically, there's not like a guaranteed upfront necessarily fee. That you get drafted, you get a contract. It's sports, baby. And if you can't make the date, somebody else has got to get the game check. And so those alternates are going to be ready to fill in and take that game check. Especially if it comes from one of those top seeds. Uh, that would be nice. Not nice for the person, but for the guy who's going to be cashing in for those couple of weeks if they get that's an interesting like twist on the system there. um Thinking about the draft, man, what are you going to be doing leading into the draft? You don't really care as much about the who goes where and how. You just want to like note it all and things like that. So like what are you thinking leading into the draft?
Yeah, we actually just had a production meeting the other day, and I mean, draft for us is of course there's the ultimate goal of the draft where we're getting everybody on teams, we're figuring out like who's gonna be playing with who and who's gonna be sometimes like who's gonna end up matched up and they're going to start getting their plans. So for us, a lot of it is like following the story. Cuz the first time we did the draft, correct me if I'm wrong, my season 3 was the draft. Did y'all do a draft in season?
We had captains.
Y'all had captains. And so y'all did like dodgeball like at PE like you. Yeah.
First
Okay.
overall pick.
Were you?
Yes.
Oh dang!
You don't remember that? That was so
No.
crazy. I was like, what? Yeah, baby. First overall in the first ever draft. I'm the first ever first pick.
Yeah, yeah,
Dang, I didn't
yeah.
even realize. Hey, that's a
That's a
hey, put that
title.
in my bio. How many XP is that worth? That should be a higher XP too, or something like that. That was the
I
first.
I do feel like that should weigh something. We need the commissioner on this.
Holy cow. That's awesome. Look at me. Look at me. All
Hey,
right.
your boy went higher in the draft because I
Then
played the business play and I bought the NFT of my guy over at Drew at
does Jitsu, Drew Weatherhead.
yeah, Drew Weatherhead, and that's the only. I was the only name he recognized on the list because I bought one of his NFTs.
Quality move.
I, s- I still have some of those mini NFTs and PGF NFTs if anybody's interested. By the way, just a quick selfless plug.
Oh yeah, man. Um, I do too. I just don't know how to get to that stuff. That's crazy.
That was a little flash in the pan, but no. So
They
with the
still hold the value to the PGF stuff though.
from what I understand, yes,
So if you bought a PGF NFT that gave you some sort of something
it gains
like
you
a
access
ticket
to
or a things
events.
like that or whatever yours had, that's a valid thing that you could transfer and sell or whatever. I believe uh, that's still accurate because it's still in the market. I just don't know how to get to mine, but I see it on there.
You still, but you have to present it the way that we always were. Was like it has to be presented in your wallet, like not a screenshot, not like oh my buddy has it. Like
I
you have
can't
to.
print out the paper.
I don't think that's how they work.
I want to print it out and bring it to you
And
and
just
show you.
have it like MapQuest.
Get a QR. I'll print the QR code out and bring it to you.
Oh, okay, boomer.
Hey, I'm sorry. Um, but yeah, so I'm excited for the draft stuff. Um, looking forward to see who's gonna go where, who's gonna favor who, and like the draft order, I guess is just kind of gonna be still to be determined at a random date. Oh, with 5 players, Christos.
Christos says? Got and this is Christos Papadopoulos. CPAP is what Wallo's deeming him. So we'll see if that sticks. Guys, what's the most you drop on me with the salary cap at $15,000? What's that in pesos, Chris? Dos.
Let me
Um,
check my notes for the upcoming draft here. 1 second.
okay. So, for me, having the actual salary play a thing, because to my point that I was saying earlier, is we had our first draft. When guys got there, they weren't quite aware what the draft meant, and that was the time that the first time that we had the reserves or the alternates that ended up uh, the draft order mattered, and it mattered like whether or not you could sit out. And so it was like all of a sudden this tension on I've got to get drafted high. I took off work for this. I did all this. So like it's been interesting to see the draft develop to now the point that it is this season their pay is determined by their draft.
Yeah, which is a thing that we wanted to do. I think we did do it previously one time, right? To where that was the case, sorta. I think the last one indicator where that was it,
Yes.
and that's what made it really fun for everybody the first
Yes.
time. Yes,
Yes.
that was
That
actually.
was actually the physical when they got the physical money of like what they
Mm-hmm.
were getting paid that week. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That was pretty cool. And so yeah, Christos, if it is a 15K spread over 5 people, right? Um, just simple math on that. Divided in to 15 is 3. So about 3,000 average, and we've seen people go for a lot less, score a lot more, and people go for a lot not be able to score as much. Uh, the big thing would be draft order. If you go number, like if you're the first guy that comes up, Christos, like in the draft order, what would be the max I would go for you? Uh, I'd probably run somebody up to about 45 or so and be happy if I got quote stuck with you at about 45 because I think that there could be another group of players to put around you that'll make a really solid team and not have to, bid for any of the other like top 2, 3 guys or whatever as much. Just kind of look for those hidden like gyms or whatever. And for me, man, I've been looking at to see who the coaches are kind of talking about when I get there too, because they've been watching you guys and they'll know a lot more about who's going to be good for what. I think than we've ever seen before as coaches too. It's going to be a much different game from that perspective this season as well.
He says if he gets $4,500, he's going straight to the club. So maybe that was I don't know. Is he the Elijah character to straight to the club mean that he's going to come in and lay up 3 wins tomorrow?
Christos, that's all it's going to take. That's all it takes.
We know his price now.
Shoot. Okay. Well, man, I make a note of what he just said. If he goes,
Making notes. Write it down. The internet's forever, Christos.
listen, man, there's a lot of famous and not so famous now tales of people who got that paycheck early and then didn't do the job and then didn't get another job.
He
So
he
I'm not
he.
saying you're that dude, but you might be the John Jones, Dennis Rodman kind of character though, Christos. I don't know. You come back looking like Pete Crow Armstrong with the blonde hair and the leopard hair, and you start just
Oh
dicing folks
man,
up. I don't know. I'm ready for that though.
Christos.
That's a new evolution. That's like Super Saiyan, you
Uh,
know.
the
So like
opportunity's there, Christos. The
I will go.
opportunity
I
has
go
been laid.
55 for that. I go 5500 if he came in with the Pete Crow
Committed to the
Armstrong,
bit.
Dennis Rodman haircuts. Yeah, I'm down for that. Anybody that comes in for that, you're my first pick. You let me know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Sugar Sean got knocked out with rainbow hair though, didn't he?
That's okay.
Okay, okay. I mean, just commit to it is all I'm saying.
He didn't get knocked out a bunch of times too,
True.
right? If you do it long enough, you'll get got. But like Elijah, I think said recently in the Marshawn Lynch kind of way, is like I'm just gonna get more people got until they get me,
He made
basically.
he made a very good point, and I saw him say this on Instagram, where that playing in that mini season in front of Drysdale and Andy may give him a little bit of an edge on that because they're familiar with him, they've seen his commitment, they've seen his game, and being around the
They're a vet
PGF.
too.
How much do you think it's an advantage to being a veteran of the PGF when you come into this?
Well, not even just a veteran so much as, but he's been doing and promoting shows with the rule set, with the referees, being very involved, in lots of those kinds of things, watching how the game's played and seeing, more and more of how the scores go, and it's still such a young game that there's not enough data to really like nail too much on anything hardly. But you get a feel for it, I guess, and that's a big thing for being there and around it and kind of like going through it. It is like its own unique kind of deal, and so I think that's a big advantage in and of itself is like knowing the rules and how to play the game. Um, so Kristaps, yeah, it should be one of the playoff guys for sure. Depending on whatever happens and how the cards fall or whatever, I would be very, very surprised if he didn't at least make the playoffs. Um, there's a handful of guys that I mean, they just don't have enough record out there yet against the higher level of competition stuff that you don't know.
Yeah.
But this might be the thing when the lights come on is like, oh, there's that guy or those dudes that show up or whatever. You get a Brad Schneider or something like that that comes in and starts
That
putting up
shows up,
points.
that
Yeah, and starts
figures out the
ball. Yeah,
game, and
he's
yeah,
there. He's gonna play, and he's gonna show up to play every night. He's not gonna be maybe the number one guy, but he's gonna beat everybody that he's supposed to beat and put everybody to the board that's coming out against him. He's not gonna let anything go for free. And when you're doing this stuff, man, I think that's such a thing that people can't over or under whatever over underestimate. Like if I had like a Cam Hurd on my team, and if I could go the match after Cam Hurd had with the guy or whatever,
yeah, yeah,
like if I
yeah,
could
yeah,
always
yeah.
be the next match after Cam got him, that would be such a big advantage for everybody in a way because he's gonna push them and make them work. And if he doesn't submit them and score himself, he almost rarely gets scored on and probably only has breaks. If any chokes, I bet there's maybe one or two at the most in all the matches he's had. Um, but he works them down, and so that it's like a Charles Oakley got somebody down in the paint, throwing elbows and like fouling the dude that wants to come in and dunk and try to showboat and score or whatever. He's gonna put them on their ass and show them that this is the league now, and that's one of the things that's gonna need to be happening more and more. I think as this thing goes on, is like you're gonna need to maybe sacrifice yourself for the team sometimes in a real way that hasn't ever been expected for jujitsu guys because there's enough time to have a strategy for a lot of this stuff and how to play the games against certain people. And certain people are going to just need to dog somebody out if they can, and not necessarily to win, but just like make them work. And then maybe we get two against them that night. If we can break them early with one guy, we can get two sixes against them later in the night. Um, that kind of strategy is something I'm really like interested in, and again with these high level guys that are going to be coaching uh, with their various perspectives, like we talked about before. I'm stoked
Yeah.
to kind of see what's going to happen and be there. Some of these young guys are going to make a name for their stuff. We don't know who's who yet. We don't know which one. There's so many of them that could be that guy. I want to see who they are.
Yeah, and I mean, speaking about Cam Hurd and like guys like that, guys that come in that you don't, nobody really knew who Cam Hurd was in the first season that he was there, and we knew that he was a collegiate wrestler, and that's who he was. He was a collegiate wrestler. He was a purple belt. He was starting to kind of get good, starting to kind of figure things out, and then now, like Christos brought it up, is that my man is on a tear through the ADCC Opens, through was it main character I saw him on. I've seen him on every show.
He's out there.
Just like I said at the beginning of the show, every single weekend my dude is competing.
He's
Almost,
out
it
there.
feels like it. So it's like we got what we wanted as a community. It's here. Here's the wave.
No, that's the great part. That's
Yeah.
and stuff like that. Guys like that who are able to capitalize and do that. It's great. And yeah, Cam now got his second one, and he's been grinding those ADCCs out for a while too, trying to get to the top. And he won in Atlanta, and then now he's won another one. So yeah, dude's out there on the hunt. And whenever his turn comes back for the PGF, I'm sure he'll be there, and he won't be the same guy he was before, and he will be the same guy he was before, but he'll be even better and more deadly because I've seen him adding to his arsenal and stuff. That's all the stuff that keeps happening too is that these evolutions of the thing. Uh, the game now is a little bit older and getting more established, and the people are familiar with it. The young guys are coming up in it. This is what they've been doing, and
They've been competing
they want
frequently.
this
Yeah.
kind of thing. They want to compete this way.
Yep.
Um, Yeah. Yeah, so that's great. In the draft, June 25th. Uh,
Next week.
yep, next week, and on the same day will be the UFC BJJ road to the title, or I forget the name of that, where Mikey Musamichi will go against
Is that their
Harrison.
their finale is at the that evening?
I don't know if
Correct.
it's yeah, I guess right. I think that would be it because if they're releasing the episode every day, like they are. It should
This
be kind
week.
of capping
Yeah.
this week or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting choice that they've done with a lot of the formatting of the show and how it's paced and stuff like that. I know you have feelings about the production and the way that it.
Production production is incredible, which is
Right,
what you would expect.
right,
It's the UFC, like
right.
it should be. So continue with your thoughts, and we will go into mine.
That's it. We've talked about a lot of the thoughts about the production stuff and how like high quality it is, and the storytelling and different things like that is really like it's good, and it's what you would expect from a UFC kind of show. It felt very familiar to a Ultimate Fighter, and it for me too was like awesome in a way to see like Keith being one of the first guys to walk into the room there, and half of the welterweight roster being PGF veterans and guys that are homies and stuff like that, being put on the show, and seeing that they're kind of running the format similar in a way. I don't know exactly how it's playing. Like they have the bracket thing on the wall, but I don't know if this is what's gonna end where. They don't really have a maybe the finales on the Wednesday, the two finales that would make sense. I guess is next week. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah, really cool, good like show parts of it, and then it was just kind of over though in that 30 minutes, and it felt at least the first episode felt kind of like a letdown in a way at the end, even
yeah,
though he's getting wet
yeah. I'm about to have to move. Continue with your breakdown of the
4D.
first episode.
But yeah, I thought the pacing of the show was pretty good and everything, and I was getting really into it at the time. And then the Andrew Tackett match was on and great, and he dominated and won. And then it was basically the show was over. And I don't know, that's not bad or good. I just wasn't expecting that. It seemed really fast, and so I wanted it. I wanted more matches, but then now they're releasing it daily episodes like this and those 30-minute chunks. It's made it easier to kind of watch it and want to see it more every day, especially again with the homies being on there and the matches coming up. So the first episode was good and it kind of pulled me in for sure, but then it was just over and it felt like I don't know. I wanted more, which I guess again is that's the move. That's what you do. And so then
Yeah.
after that, it was like, oh, okay, well we saw I was like, oh, the next one's tomorrow. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Well, tomorrow was yesterday, and so you asked me if I watched it or whatever. Been kind of busy doing whatever, and you sent me a picture, and you're like, "This is it. This is what's kind of wrong, or this is what the disconnect is with everything."
What does
Um,
everybody see wrong with this photo?
in general, probably nothing.
I wish I had the little telestrator to do it and circle it, and you can't see my mouse where I'm circling. The shoes, man.
Oh, that's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Oh, and he's got dirty heels.
Yeah. He's got dirty, just the shoes he walked in off the street on.
Whoa, I didn't even get it. I thought you were talking about the leg locks or whatever.
No.
I was like, why is he so mad about leg locks exactly? I don't know.
Has
But
nothing to do with that. It was the fact that,
wow.
like,
He's got
un.
white bottom shoes on that look dirty.
Yep.
Oh my God.
Yep.
My man.
That,
No.
my. All right.
I've done worse.
Yeah, for sure. And look, I see clips of huge shows where people go running out on the mat and they're like, "Yeah, the match is over," or whatever. And I get it. Sometimes that's between matches and stuff, and and I understand.
I don't do it.
But it's just
I don't do
to
it.
me, it's just like when you're at a naga and you look down and homeboys just walking around on their bare feet on this convention center that there was literally a livestock convention in 2 days ago.
Whoa. I never thought about it that way.
I catch on. I pay attention to weird details, man. I told you this is how it manifests with me.
I mean, we fought out of like a horse barn and stuff before, so that's not, I guess, completely
Yeah, how
But
many of
yeah,
the
in
guys did you
general,
train
though,
with have staff back then?
I don't know, man. Dang.
So,
What you the
My
police?
my takeaway from UFC was that they delivered exactly what we expected from them. We got the Ultimate Fighter with grappling. I'm with you on the first episode. I was super bummed about. If that was a weekly episode, I was about to be super upset. I was like, I just spent my lunch break watching this show, and I got to watch 35 seconds of jujitsu.
It was exciting 35 seconds though. Now it
It
was
was
it was awesome. Tackett's great TV. He's awesome grappling. Uh, Entertainment value is out the charts.
yeah, yeah. So they structured it exactly how I expected them to structure it. They went about it exactly how I expected them to go about it. They copied and pasted the Ultimate Fighter. If you're a gigantic corporation who's had success for how many seasons has that show had? Like,
52,000.
why would you not? Like, I totally get it. And for the homies that made it on the show, those of us that started back in the Ultimate Fighter days, like that was the goal. Like we wanted to get on that show. Everybody wanted to fight for the contract. Everybody. So
I tried out.
that's what I'm saying. Like a bunch of people I know tried out.
That's so funny too. For the last one of the things we'll bring up in a minute, actually.
So like it's not terrible TV, which is what they're trying to sell, which is what the corporation needs, which what it wants. As a fan, I feel like it was approached kind of lazily for as much of commitment that the corporation and the company says that they have. Is that if you have how many ever $1 trillion that they're gonna put into the
Every
economy
day.
of jujitsu, like whatever the quote was from Dana of like I'm gonna put $12
I'm
million
just
towards what, like whatever that number was. If you have that kind of that money, I would hope that because you were the innovator that created the innovation of the UFC and created the combat sports world that we know today, that you would come out with something that would feel a little more innovative and a little bit more plugged into the culture and a little bit because they are part of the culture. They are part they in the montage in the beginning where they're talking about UFC 1, 2, 3. Like jiu-jitsu is the backbone of what we have in combat sports today. That I'll pull it up again. That makes me feel like that this is the decisions are being made by people that don't actually like feel that way. Does that make sense? And I may be honing on one little thing in that.
I didn't even notice that. I guess overall because I'm just kind of used to I guess people on UFCs and stuff wearing shoes in the cage or things like that. The
Because
referees
fighting's
would have shoes
dirty
on
and
and things
yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
I would assume that you would just need to have like at least black bottoms or something
Or
like solid, color like that. That's not gonna
maybe they
look
have one of
dirty.
those little cleaning sticky pads at the edge that I didn't see, and he's stepping on that between it, and there is, some effort to keep it clean. And like I'm saying, is
Like
that
I
like
take my shoes off on the events, man, and they like people have told me like you can leave them on or whatever, and it's like man, I got to come on and off this thing like so many times. I don't want to like be because I walk to the bathroom and then walk back, and I do like
exactly?
all these things. I'm outside, and everywhere, and I don't want to do that because I'm the guy on the mat sometimes too, or used to be only, like just so
Right.
I want that level of because like man, especially at events, sometimes it's really hard to get to a shower, oftentimes pretty quick. And so if you've been rolling on stuff like that multiple times, where multiple matches and stuff been going on, people been walking on and off and all that different stuff so many times. Yeah, skin infections or just any stuff like that. I just feel I don't know. I don't like
Yeah,
being gross like that. I don't like that dirty
yeah.
feeling, and so like I don't enjoy that at all.
And it's just the last little bit of like, I guess there's a little bit of the formality and the like respect that like I don't really buy into most of it, but like there is a little bit of an element of treating a mat differently than the rest of the world because it is a different thing, and it is the thing is that
So
like
yeah. I don't bow to the mat, and I don't make
No,
anybody else
yeah,
bow
yeah,
to the
yeah.
mats or anything like that. But I definitely show a lot of respect to the mat and the mats in that area and what it means and the training grounds and things like that. It's not.
Not to mention that shit's expensive.
Yeah, yeah, that's always a thing. I don't always consider as much either. It's like I do think about that though when I'm wearing like when I was wearing my gator boots and stuff like that, and people wanted me to
Right,
walk on the mats. I was like, if I put these like heels and stuff on that mat and turn or stumble somehow and stab it and rip it, I'm the asshole now. Like
right,
I'm not
right,
doing that. Like I'm not
right.
risking it to myself even. Like and so went through various shoes or whatever, and one day I'll be the guy who likes or is okay with wearing like tennis shoes or like basketball whatever sneakers with a suit and stuff like that. Maybe that'll help me be a cooler person or something. I don't know. I'm just still not that dude as much either. So I just kind of be walking around barefoot. You know what I'm saying? And even at the PGF one night last season or the other season, y'all let me wear mismatching socks, and nobody told me until the end of the night. And Raquel
I
and
forgot about that.
Sam told me they're like, "Did you have on mixed match socks?" And I was like, "No." And they're like, "Are you sure?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm positive that I did not wear like mixed match socks. What are you talking about?" And so then I went and looked, and they were the same color schemes or whatever, but they were different like geometric pattern things on there. And so they definitely were different, but I didn't notice at all, and they did, I guess. But that's neither here nor there, I guess, to the overall concept of it all. I just want to
Well,
be not wearing shoes on the mats and stuff. I didn't realize that's what you were talking about in the video.
yeah, 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 yeah. That was what my post was about on Instagram, and I was just waiting for anybody else to see it because it's just gross and like I said, disrespectful as far as that goes. I understand after the match is over and people are out there and everything's chaos
Well,
and whatnot, but even then, like I feel weird about it. But
yeah, and so my complaint, I guess, I didn't see that, and that's not something that's not that big of a deal.
no, yeah,
That could be
well,
cleaned up and easily. It like you said, it could be a thing that is a thing of other things, but in general,
right,
that's something that could be fixed kind of easily in a way. The thing that I'm gonna make a gripe about, and this is totally 100% biased, I would say, probably compared to other people, and I'm not trying to separate myself from my bias at all in this because I even saw Alex got a little like people like, oh, you said you're unbiased, but you work for people and whatever. I ain't that dude. I'll be biased. That's my prerogative to be biased and choose based on what I know and don't know. Um, Either way, but Keith Krikorian's match with Isaac, I thought like the way you were the video was like I thought you were talking about the way that the match went.
oh,
Um,
I agree with that too, but I wasn't getting to that in the photo. But yeah, continue.
that is exactly the match that I was trying to like warn or talk
Yeah,
about or whatever when it comes to that 10-point must system of whatever that this is that the UFC BJJ is going to be. At no point, except for maybe one time, did that guy actually have Keith in danger
yeah,
at all,
yeah,
at all. And
yeah,
Keith basically broke him with pressure and being able to pull out. If you saw the what even they showed on the video when Andy said, "No, get out of there and get up," he would just pull out and get up and get on top. And he
yeah,
played the game with him to try to get the counters, and he sat in there with him because he had to do that to try to beat this dude because this dude was not going to do anything else but sit on his ass and try to lay up there and play leg games just enough to win a 5-minute round, 2 out of 3 damn times, and then beat somebody who not saying that Isaac doesn't deserve it or how good or whatever they are in that way or whatever, but to beat somebody that was really in control, basically, it felt like to me of the match. And
yeah.
now again, that may be me looking at it from my homie, lens there, because Keith and I are black belts both under Boogie. We trained like Keith was a day daily training partner for me. If everybody doesn't like know that kind of stuff, but when Keith was a teenager coming from high school, after like school or after wrestling practices or tournaments and different things like that, he'd be coming to 10th Planet San Diego and coming to classes and different things like that. And man, I actually reached out to him when I saw that he was on this UFC thing, and I forgot. He had reminded me. He's like, "Man, yeah, it's like I remember you. I used to open the school in the mornings for 6 a.m.s and 5:30 like strength conditioning or like mobility classes. And he would come in a lot, when he had
Yeah.
stuff he could do it or whatever. And he was like, man, I just remember that was just like a cool time, to have that, to be able to come in and kind of get that work in and be able to do that stuff. And I was like, man, that is cool. It's
Yeah.
like that's a cool thing. Like I forget about some of that kind of stuff because he was probably a purple blue belt or whatever at a lot of that time, and then on his grind one year he went and just competed around the country basically at every EBI style local show in the country, and started basically being that guy already that was doing the weekly rounds of running the circuit or whatever, and you know, had his ADCC woes or whatever, So like he's a friend and somebody that I care a lot about in his career, something that I'm pretty, heavily invested in, I guess, emotionally. So that's to say, like, it's completely biased in that way, and I'm not trying to say anything bad about Isaac personally or any of that kind of stuff. But that kind of grappling is not going to be what
Is
I want to see carry us into the future, and I don't think that that's going to be what the masses want to see in the future. They don't want to see those guys. They don't know what that is. Nobody
well,
understands that.
that I was gonna say that type of match is the type of match that you have to turn to your casual friend that's watching this show with you and explain to them why that
Mm.
guy won.
Yeah.
And then you have to be like, I don't know if I agree, but this is probably what they were thinking. And it's like, well, aren't we trying to get rid of
Well,
that?
why exactly? That isn't
Yeah,
that the whole idea of what we're
yeah,
supposed to be trying to do,
yeah,
or not? And so, like, I knew that was going to be a thing in some sort of way, and of course, it would happen to somebody like Keith, who would make me really feel stronger about the outcome that happened that way. Uh,
yeah.
so, man, I really hate that for him because I don't think that he was in any danger, and I don't think that guy was going to submit him. They could have went another 1,000 hours, and Keith would have not been submitted. He would eventually have gotten through on the guy somehow. He would have countered him back or what, like eventually. And that's what's always frustrated me about that kind of deal. And so I hope it's not something that happens a lot. I hope
Yeah.
that there's a way to get that stuff figured out and kind of cleaned up or
How do
whatever.
you how do you fix it if you're the judge? Like how do you come in as the head judge and tell your judges or tell your referees how to watch the match? Like how do you score that? Because to be honest, with a non-biased
I
lens
don't
watching
know.
that would if you don't have a bias and you don't really lean one way or the other on the style, that was almost impossible to really guess. Like if you
That's
were
what I'm saying.
looking at
I,
it
I don't know.
objectively, yeah.
I don't
Like
know.
who nobody won that match because
Per 5
Keith.
minutes and 10-9 or whatever that is, it could have gone either way, 2-1 or 2-2, whatever, or a draw rounds, but they don't do draw rounds because there's a 10-9 must or whatever it is. And so even like that's the thing, you can't do a draw where nobody wins because they need the conclusion. They want a winner and a loser in that way, but
Right.
it's the worst way a lot of times that winning and losing happens in combat sports as a whole is that people are just trying to like score points that don't exist. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, he's scoring points, and it's like there are no points.
Right.
The only
Is
points happen
exactly.
at the end of the round based on what the criteria is, and that they're different for jujitsu and MMA. But like the MMA criteria is like damage, duration, and dominance. Like
All
those,
subjective things that you can't really judge from the outside of a fight.
well, well, the damage is like how hurt is the person, how much damage are you putting on them. The duration is how long, right? So if you were
Okay.
if you were damaging them for a longer time, right? And then domination is the next criteria where you were doing those other two things for more of almost the whole round. And so that's how you score closer to 10-8 rounds or whatever based on the ABC course when I took it a couple years ago.
I feel you. That just in my mind just feels so arbitrary. Like
No,
feels
it
like
can
yeah.
be, right?
Yeah.
What, like, if you see a guy get cut, that's damage. He's bleeding. But it could
Hmm.
have just been one punch and the other guy has been doing so much more damaging things to them. You just it's superficial in a way,
So
but
then
he's bleeding.
transition that to jujitsu and be like,
Oh, he
what the
he
hell
pulled
does
on
that
he
mean?
pulled on Keith's foot a lot of times, and Keith had to roll away,
Right.
and he pulled on Keith's foot, and then Keith pulled on his feet, and then they pulled on each other's leg, and then they switched each other's legs and pulled on them and twisted them, and then they switched, and then Keith got up, and then they pulled on each
So
other's
who
legs
won?
again.
Right?
That's what I'm
But
saying. See, like
and
it's
I
just
want to make a point to like Chris is
that's
in
the
here
stuff I
saying
don't like.
Chris is in here saying like it's the judges that you hire. I agree, but also
How?
if you're handing, I don't care how good of a judge you are or whatever, if you're handing them a rule set that's so arbitrary and interpret, it's gonna be up to the interpretation of the person that is doing the call. So how do we tell them to make that interpretation? Or like I feel like a lot of these promotions and things that we've tried to move towards as a culture in jiu-jitsu, and all the way back to my original point of the shoes on the mat, is that you're not plugged into the jiu-jitsu culture enough to even understand that we've gotten past this argument. We've gotten to this, and I feel like that Craig's making the same mistake by following this because they're trying to attract the
He's the
MMA
one that
crowd.
did this first.
Exactly. And I think that it's a mistake on both parts because we're now having the same argument that we've been having in MMA for the last decade.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, wait, we can just remove all the arbitrary, remove the points, and go, okay, nobody won. But people don't like that. They don't like that necessarily at first when you say it, and then they participate in it, or they watch it, or they're like, oh, it makes sense. That guy won, that guy didn't. What are the points? He tapped him. He broke something. He killed him. Those are the points because that's the point in this whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think that that's why you ended up with a match that you could argue that especially for Keith, that we know that he's capable of super exciting jiu-jitsu. That was a pretty boring match by those standards.
He did everything he could do.
Yeah, I
He
think
did
he did.
everything he could
I
do.
think that
He
he
sold
maybe,
out on stuff like he said in his interview. He did stuff to expose himself to get a chance to get the guy because the guy wasn't going to do
which
anything,
is what
man.
you have to do when the
That's
guy
the
won't
most
play. Right.
MMA, UFC strategy thing ever is
Mm-hmm.
to clock time and win rounds.
Yep.
That's
Which has been the problem of
is
making
what I
boring
don't
fights.
like. It's what I don't like. And if we want to see good jujitsu, the jujitsu that they're wanting to pay for is the scrambling, the getting up and down, takedowns, and the people trying to pass guard and people trying to sweep and getting back, into the scrambles and stuff like
They
that
need
more.
to be chasing each
They
other.
don't they don't want
Yeah.
to see one guy sitting on his butt and not trying to get up and go forward. And so that was the only problem with what Isaac's strategy was, is that he was not pushing like
Forward.
forward. He was
It was
waiting.
IBJJF. He played IBJJF game.
Like Mikey was screaming, "You're down, make it!" Now he's got to come to you. He's got to come to you now because you're down, or whatever that is, and stuff. And scream, "Oh, that was
IBJJF.
beautiful! That was beautiful!" And no, it was no, it wasn't. No, it was. That's not good.
Did you
That's not
hear?
good.
Speaking of which, the did you hear that Andy's like counter coaching that was going on? He's a little viral sensation on the
No,
Instagram.
I thought that was right, and that was needed
That was
in a way
great. It was
because
perfect.
Keith was breaking him just like, and like
Yeah.
he was falling over. He's getting tired. He was just making it to the thing and doing just enough things to look like he was winning, and and whatever he won. It's just I don't want to see that a bunch of time, especially if it happens all the time. I don't care about that. That does not, and whatever. Props to my guys. I hope they get paid. My buddies and everybody. I hope everybody gets paid and they're taken care of, and the show makes all the money. I just won't be tuning in all the time because it's just not entertaining to me, and that's okay for me to not be entertained by something that everybody else is entertained by. That's their prerogatives if they want to go with that. It's just not my taste anymore,
But I
and
think that this is creating some of the same problems
it's
that the
okay.
UFC's had. Like when the UFC's had like boring cards, which they went through a stint that like was a while that it did this. It was the rules that were
They
doing
had to
it.
change the rules, the
Yeah.
scoring criteria, and things like that
Yeah.
because it was octagon control or whatever was like what people thought was one of the main like judging criterias, which meant like you could just press them against the wall or hold them up against whatever and pin them, and then that's it. That's all you
Yep.
got to do.
Yeah.
So all in all, I think it's good. The
It's
show's good. The show's
great
great.
for the community. Like I want to preface all of that with the fact that, like, for the homies, for the goal, for trying to get on the show and get the contract with the UFC, like, this is awesome. Like, they're
It's
getting
great
that
for that.
spotlight.
It's
Yeah.
just not for the culture.
No.
That's the thing. It's
Yeah.
great for business. It's not for the culture, and that's just a thing. And maybe the money will trickle down, and do whatever, or the people will just kind of choose to go wherever they want to go for whatever they like. Um,
And
But yeah,
I like the fight enclosure. I like us going the direction of the pits.
bowl.
I've been on the bowl pit train since before it was a train. Like I think that like Joe Rogan was wrong when he said that like they need to fight on a giant 100-yard field. Well, then now we're just going to watch guys run from each other once they realize they can't beat one another. When you're forced inside of a pit, you're forced to fight, and that's interesting. And even all the way down to like our enclosure of like Keelan says is that like we have a human pit of like you can't go fight each other in the couches. Like we're gonna put you out in the middle and you gotta like decide to do it in the middle. So I'm a fan of the direction that that's getting pushed as a culture.
I don't know. I'm gonna push back on the basketball
Okay.
thing
Okay.
a little bit here
I'll
because
hear it.
I think running in that case could be part of the fight. Pursuing, if you try
Okay.
to run away for what reason, you might be getting either beaten up and you need to run away, and if you make the other person chase you a little bit, they'll get tired. There had to be like an engagement kind of rule of some sort there. You know what I mean? Like you can't just run away or
Yeah, you can't
whatever.
just
But
run
like,
a marathon and then turn
what is
around and beat them
that
up.
like? I don't know if it's Pakistan or whatever, where they're like walking and they're like smacking each other's chests or whatever and stuff, and they just start like running and hitting each other in the chest.
I don't know if I've seen that one. I've seen the one where it's like in Rome, I think that they still do it, where it's like basically like a rugby kind
Ish.
of soccer
Hmm.
game, and then they're boxing in the middle. Like, I feel like that's the most realistic when it comes to the fact of like, if
Like
you
a
want to talk
team
about like a
fight.
real fight, yeah. Is that like you're beating up the homeboy, and then his buddy's like, not today, and
Mm,
like comes over the top, like, yeah. I feel like if we want to
I'm
get
ready.
real, that's real, and then running then makes sense. It's like I gotta keep my
I
ground. I
can't let you
gotta
get close.
right, but then you shove that in a pit. I mean, they're still in an enclosure. They're still in
Mhm.
like a
No,
coliseum.
I like the pit idea. I like the pit, the alley at CJI going into it and being there. I like this idea. I like the slant wall. I think the bowl might be good because of the way that it maybe keeps you from even having the slant wall to like
Yeah,
almost like balance on or whatever. It makes you have to kind of sit down in it instead of like lay plank
I don't know.
and stuff.
Tackett used it about the same way he did at CGI, didn't he?
Well, it's a ramp, but it's like a rounded ramp instead of just like a
Yeah,
flat ramp.
instead of
So
just
I'm
a
thinking more for like like the diagonal thing is a way that
that you end
it
up in
is
that like
funny. It is kind
there.
of funny.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
you can
yeah.
TP somebody a lot more in that way. And with this one, they'd have to almost it's like a bad cage in a way. Back in the day, if their fence was loose, you can push
You
somebody
could
into it
like
and sit them
sink
down.
down into
Uh-huh.
it. Yeah,
And that's what
yeah,
you do.
yeah, yeah,
That's what I did. Either I'd push them into it, make them sink, and then I'd snatch their legs out. And then
yeah. Because you can't stay like there's not the
you
tension to
have to
push
sit
back.
down.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, yeah.
So
Which I think the bowl will encourage. That is that it's
that
gonna
takedown
be
he did.
jujitsu.
How many times have I shown you guys that body lock trip with the forehead into the neck and head like that, and
Oh
said that
yeah,
that's how you're
yeah,
supposed to take people down to these things?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
I was
yeah,
like, oh, that's it. Like that match, seeing him compete. I love watching dude compete.
yeah.
Like I'm in. I'm all in for Tackett and stuff like that too. So like it's not. That's it. I'm not knocking the whole thing at all. I just don't
No,
like
yeah,
the scoring system. I like the
yeah,
guys. I like that they're doing it. I like that it's being chunked up the way it is. I like that I can watch it and go back to doing what I'm doing and get a little bit of information from it. I don't know the finality of it all yet, which is
yeah,
what we're kind of waiting on here.
yeah,
Um, but overall, I'm pretty excited about it. We got like two more things or at least one more that you wanted to show and talk about it, and we can kind of skip the other one maybe if we need to, but we could show the up kicks thing. Uh,
yeah. All right, you ready? The
yeah,
UFC in Atlanta. You didn't go to this one, did you?
no, I was
You
where was I?
you were like baseball or something, I think.
Probably Columbus,
Uh,
the Clingstones, boy. Group
okay.
hanging
All
out
right.
there. It's
All
awesome.
right. So
Get
with
at me.
this, there was a bunch of stuff going on in Atlanta, and there was
On
some
his
wild
back,
stuff.
takes one up kick, follows him into his guard, gets back up, illegal kick in the face. He is out cold. I mean, not just knocked out. He gets himself to the fence. He's about to start doing some jiu-jitsu with the ref. No idea where he's at. I mean, he looks like he just woke up from being blackout drunk in an uncontacted tribe in Brazil.
What's your thoughts on the up kick?
In general, I think it should
Yeah,
be legal. I
same,
think it should be legal. I think it should
same.
always be
Yeah,
legal. I think there should be no time that you could be down on your knee like that over somebody and they shouldn't be able to kick you in the head.
yeah,
I think that's a big part of, again, if we're talking about jujitsu, or whatever for MMA stuff. Because like these are the things that limit like good jujitsu in fighting from being able to happen. Because if a guy can just be down on top of you like that, it's kind of hard sometimes to do things that get them off without maybe kicking them in the face or the head. Or and man, you'd be surprised how often when somebody's posturing to punch, you can get a foot in there to up kick them and hit them in the chin and stuff. Who was that? Was it Gegard Mousasi that got knocked out by Jacare a long time ago? I can't
I
remember, but somewhere in like
believe
Dream or
that's
I don't know why that just
yeah.
popped in my head, but he just like flatlined him after getting like destroyed for a little bit. And like I think a up kick is one of the most beautiful parts of fighting. I think
Yeah.
it's a technical stand up. It's so many. There's so many things that you are able to do when you can kick from there
Yeah.
that you can't do obviously if you can't kick.
Is the axe kick from there illegal, or is it just the piston motion?
Anytime somebody's on the ground with a knee down or whatever, you cannot kick or knee them in the head.
What? Even if I'm on my back? I didn't
Yep.
realize that.
Nope. Yep. Anytime. That's why that was illegal. What you just saw.
Okay, that makes sense now.
The guy was on
because
a
he was
knee.
knelt. It
One
wasn't
knee.
just the up kick. It was
Yep,
because
it was
he's a
the one knee.
grounded
Yeah.
opponent.
If he's standing over you, that's why people drop to the knee like that to try to play the game.
Nah,
yeah.
nah,
You
that
can't
should be
approach-
totally legal.
Somebody leaned over or whatever, you got to be able to
Yeah,
stay back with your hips up. to
posture.
pass.
That's
Yeah.
why posture's so important.
That's the so like this is what, and now I've understood more. I think in my old age about 10 years ago when Hickson was saying all these things about how it's not jujitsu and it's not allowing for it to be the way, and everybody's like, oh, he just being a hater and everything. And it's like, but now I get it because you take away a lot of the most effective parts of some of those positions as striking goes, and then you only give the striking power to the strikers. Being in my guard on my back or being on my butt scoop position or whatever, I can kick you in lots of different ways in the head or the legs or the gut or the groin or whatever kinds of things to make that kind of space, work out. And so if I get disqualified for that, then that takes away a ton of the power, so it's, I think it should be legal. I hate dude got hit there and looked like he went squirrely.
But it's the game. Like,
no, it's the thing that happens.
If you had gotten knocked
He tried
out,
to play the game. That's why he got hit. Then he went like the flop too. It looked like. So I don't know. I don't know if I buy it.
well, and the thing is too is as that happens and as it's going on, where are we drawing the line? Who are we protecting? Why does the guy on top get extra protection when if he had dropped down and just thrown a
He's
full
got
body
gravity on
elbow,
his side.
right? Why am I
My
now
head's in the
protecting the guy
floor.
on top?
He's
Like,
got space
and
to
why are
move
we
his head.
protecting anyone in a game that the way I win is to turn his brain off? Like, why are we talking about what's legal and illegal? I feel like, to me, that's where I've become disconnected from the MMA community and the culture, is because we keep going further and further with these arbitrary rules.
I like my brutality brutal.
Yeah.
I don't want it watered down.
Honest.
Yeah. I want to know what it is.
Yeah.
I want the man to stab me in my front. You know what I'm saying?
That's a good one.
That's the way I see that kind of stuff. I think a lot of stuff should be legal. That's not legal in MMA, in sports fighting. But then we wouldn't have the money. We wouldn't have the sponsors and et cetera, the cockfighting stigma stuff or whatever. That would take us out.
Yeah. I mean, you don't get major brand deals when people are fish hooking each other's mouths, like
right. And bare knuckle's not really bare knuckle.
Oh yeah, because of the raps. Yeah.
All right, so let's do show that last clip to end on something that's kind of positive here. It's a funny thing we talked about too. Is like we said, the Ultimate Fighter, etc. And I was like, oh yeah, I did try out. This is the season that I actually tried out for.
Okay.
And they told me, literally, the guy said, "Hey, go pad your record and come back or whatever." But it was the heavyweight season. It ended up being the one that Kimbo was on. So I hope you don't get an ad in the middle of that. But if it does or whatever, so we'll kind of see what happens right here. Can you hear that? So just like that kind of stuff is the stuff that I really enjoy a lot about the UFC storytelling and different things like that.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that got a lot of us like bought into the Ultimate Fighter and those things. There's a lot of great stories like that one. That one just kind of popped into something today as we were going to talk about some of these other things, and I wanted to make sure that we left it on some sort of like good and positive thing again, and not be like not a hater at all with
No,
this
no,
thing. I
no,
want to
no,
make sure
no.
I enjoy it, and I hope that they can find these kind
These
of
are
moments.
critiques.
This is the stuff that I like about it, and so like I enjoyed that. Like I told you again yesterday when it was over or whatever, I was like, oh my god, it's already like so I'm in. They get me with the storytelling version of it all. I just hope for a better scoring outcome in the future for the matches and things like that. I hope. But yeah, that Kimbo Slice interview in and of itself though is like a really important like thing. That maybe we should all kind of keep in mind sometimes or whatever. It's like we always look at the other, or what somebody else did or does or has or different things like that. And sometimes we're the ones that's blocking our own blessings, being negative and not doing what we're supposed to do, or hating on other people and things like that too. So that I'm happy everybody's eating and everybody's got an opportunity to do these things. There's just going to be so many more opportunities, like we said, for the storytellers, for the creatives, for the people who do technical work to set up and designs and different things, like the hands-on kind of people. That this is going to facilitate a bunch of things. And if you're a jiu-jitsu person, you'll be able to find a lane to be a
Yeah.
professional with something that's involved in jiu-jitsu more and more. I feel like from the admin side to running these teams with like the New Hope Kings, they're gonna need staff. They're gonna need a bunch of like things and some time to be able to run in the franchise.
Yeah.
So there's lots of things that are on the horizon here, and the horizon might be a lot closer than a lot of us have realized.
Yeah.
Seeing what we saw in the last week and in the coming weeks, it's man, the future's bright, baby. I'm excited. I'm happy
It's
to be here.
it's been cool to have a front row seat to watch this happen. And like that's something that like it gets lost on me every once in a while, and then I'll find myself sitting in a place or in a room
Mhm.
or in a thing or editing something or looking at something that I have my hands on and be like, "Oh, damn, like this is the
It's cool,
thing
man.
happening
It's
right in front
cool.
of me." Like it's super cool. And I'm super glad, like you said. I'm glad to see the UFC coming in and being a part of it and like making the effort, giving us exactly what I would have expected out of them. I do, like you're saying, I hope they go a little deeper into the storytelling and stuff. I see them kind of skimming into it. That's hard to do in 26 minutes.
Mhm.
But like they're doing a good job of it. And if you do want to go deeper, like we said, 50% of those guys have been on the PGF roster. So if you really want to get to know their story, some of them have told their stories on the Grapplers over there on the PGF
The
YouTube.
documentaries, the different various grapplers documentaries, you'll see some of these guys not
They're
whole, but their most
almost
recent whole
they're come up.
journeys in some of them in the last year or two and things. So yeah, man, it's a whole thing that's going on, man. So
Yeah.
much love out there, everybody. Thank y'all for tuning in today and every day if you do tune in, and wherever you see this, whenever you see this and stuff. Y'all make sure to tag and at Craig Jones and CJI and let them know you want the dream to be the announcer for the show. We're gonna let's just mob them and see what happens here. I don't know if it works or not. Maybe three of y'all say something that'll be enough to tip the scales. Let's
The
do it.
Dream Army.
Yeah, come on, dreamers. Let's get out here.
Can't call them dream. I think somebody already has
Hey,
dreamers.
come on, people, my
The
folks.
Dream Army. What can't
Yeah,
that?
I
I
don't know.
mean,
I don't know. I don't know. I don't
no.
know what to say. I never thought about this
The
until just
Dream Team.
that was literally just like a right now topic. Y'all tell them, tag them, and everything you see. Put the dream in. You need the dream in there. I'll play. I'm ready. We're gonna be the best, no matter what happens. Either way, because we have fun and we love what we do. That's it.
And we're out.